No, this one is that whoever people that wear black is because one of the rabbis wore black because in Europe, someone was like a student, whatever he wore, whatever
But now, the Jewish people, wherever they are in the world, they wear black regardless. Is that tradition?
I think it has find that it harder with tip. If you want tip, so that comes attached to your right.
So
But as like a root of five.
started a sect or whatever, and that's what it's like. Custom. But if you look at you go to Israel, you see people dressed up differently. Party Jews wear different clothes. They have different hats as well. They wear all white like Muslims.
But mainly, I see a lot of Shiva. When they go to Shiva, they're all pretty much dressed in like white shirt and they put a coat in black. But also is that because you follow the
rabbi, yeah, the teacher. So that rabbi has to follow someone else. So one person started with one rabbi or something. Yeah, so you see different people that wear different clothes.
So it's more about a respect to follow what the teacher does.
It's not out of respect. The idea of a rabbi is to copy exactly like Paul says, imitate Jesus, imitate Christ.
Even the clothes.
Everything. So even it's like most rabbis back then they slept sideways, and until today everyone still sleeps sideways. That's what they did. And that's how it should be. Short every single way. Even these little things you consider insignificant, that's what separates the disciple from like someone who's just there. You know, Yeshua fed the 500, whatever. Those people were there. They listen to what he said, right? They don't care what he does. They still hear what he said. Take some lesson, whatever.
Okay. Sorry.
Technical difficulties. A certain way to stand or sit, whatever.
In those
They'll do
days,
that.
they used to sleep in bedclothes, so it would be pretty hard to sleep on your back. So sleep on your side, and then
Okay. All right, we're ready to go. Finally.
God didn't just give the written law, so read the written law. He also gave Yeshua the written law. So we imitate him in every way.
All right. Matthew 5:8. Somebody read it from the board.
Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see election.
What's it meant to be pure?
clean.
Clean?
Not impure.
Not impure. Very good.
Tahor.
Tahor.
Complete.
Unblemished.
Complete. Does that have anything to do with righteousness?
Maybe.
Innocent?
Oh, do you know what it means to be pure? It means you're working on that.
Pure gold. Yep. Silver. Worth more. All of the above. Let's pray. Avinu Malkeinu, Father, our King, we commit ourselves into your presence on this beautiful Shabbat, 7th day of Hanukkah. Father, may our light shine before men, and may your name be glorified. According to your word, may you give us your word tonight, and may there be nothing of me in it. Provide for us as you see fit, and that your word would have the fruit in us that you have purposed. Commit ourselves into your hands, in Yeshua's name. Amen.
Rob? Matthew's calling for you.
All right.
Matthew's here. Matthew's here.
Is he?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I'm just going to move this out of the way.
No.
I'm going to get Greeked out a little bit. Yep, you can turn that on. Right, the word pure, translated pure in the Greek, is Katharos. And G2513. Strong's G2513. To be clean, to be pure, purified, to purge out or expel something from your body, right? To clean out, in essence. Further depth into that word brings us to root words and other words that are derived from that root word. Brother Daniel was kind enough to send us some words that are related to the same family of this Greek word. This is where we get the word catheter, if people know about what that means. Yep. Catheter is a thing that they put on you when you have issues with your valves or... Alright. To evacuate stuff from your body. So, or when you have an operation, they put a catheter to drain blood out. But this word also has... I picked two of the other meanings or related words to this word in the Greek, and one is to do with being restored, and the other one has to do with being a virgin. So not only as being restored, but being made as a virgin. Okay, which are very important when we come to the wedding language, the wedding supper of Messiah, right? The wedding language, he presents to him a virgin bride. Yep, we've talked about all this stuff many times over already. So we're in the middle of the Feast of Hanukkah, or the Feast of Lights, or the Feast of Dedication. And it's not about eating fried foods, although latkes and safkunyans, my favorite. Feel free to bring some any time of the year. Don't worry about Hanukkah or Purim, any day. But it's not about the fried foods. It's not even about the Maccabees, although that's part of the idea of Hanukkah. And the Maccabees was an amazing feat that the brother Judas, the hammer, Maccabees meaning the hammer, they liberated Israel from the Seleucids, or the Greek Empire at the time, because they had prohibited worship and they wanted to bring an idol into the temple of God. And so the revolt happened because of that idol that was wanted to be installed by Antiochus the first, I think, or the third, I don't remember. So the revolt began, and the whole point of the Maccabean war was about restoration, restoring Israel to its former glory, to restore the temple of God and the altar that had been defiled. Right? In the story of the Maccabees, they take apart the altar and they rebuild a new one because the old altar had been defiled by blood that was unclean. So this point gets missed out a lot in the whole episode of Hanukkah, because it's all about the miracle of the 8 days of the oil. And although that's great, And we don't diminish that. If that is true. That we don't know if that is true, but if it is, which is possible, we're not diminishing that at all. But I think the main focus of Hanukkah is about dedication of God's temple and the altar. And what used to happen in temple days is that once the feast had finished, they will begin a process of cleansing the temple. So they will cleanse the utensils, they will cleanse the tunics, the golden beads, the silver beads, everything had to be cleansed and purified, and getting it ready for the new set of feasts that would be coming up. So at the culmination of that cleansing period, they would come to the altar, and the altar will be the last piece that will be cleansed, purified. And so they had this ceremony that would go for an entire day just before Hanukkah. And this ceremony was the libation ceremony. And it was a feast of washing. So the priest would go down to the pool of Shiloh at the bottom of Mount Zion, and pick up some water from there and bring it all the way back. And there was jubilation, and the lights were all turned on, all the oil lamps in the city. And because the city was sitting on a hill, you could see the city from miles because it was all lit up. And then they would come up to the altar in the evening, just before Hanukkah would begin, and then they would mix the grape juice or wine and water on the altar. And there was a channel that would go out of the east gate down into Jerusalem. So as you pour the water, that water was going out into the streets of Jerusalem, not only purifying the altar, but because the altar is holy, you would purify the whole city. Right? So, and they would mix the heifer ashes with the water. So this would happen every year. And I think this is the point of Hanukkah. Because the first dedication that we see is here when God creates all things, and He says that it was good. He says that it was very good. He's dedicating each time. But then we see Solomon when he builds the house of God, and he celebrates an 8-day feast where he celebrates and dedicates that house to the Lord. Right? And that's the whole prayer of Solomon. Asking God to bless those who pray towards the holy house, and so on and so forth. That goes for 8 days, and I think that's why Hanukkah has 8 days involved in that. So there's a lot of symbolism, but the main point is that the altar of God is the one that purifies us through the water, through the washing of the water and the blood. Right? So I think we miss that in the festivity of lighting the lights and all that sort of stuff. We need to be mindful that we are dedicating our lives. We are the living stones of God's temple, right? He calls us the living stones of His temple. He also says that we are what?
The light of the world.
We are the light of the world, right? And we are to shine. So there's a lot of connotations towards what happens in temple service and what we have become, because He came to make a temple not made with human hands, right? And we know that Messiah came to build a temple that is His people. He will reside in them, right, according to the prophecies. So our heart basically becomes the altar of God, in a way. This is where we offer the sacrifices of our praise, right? This is where all the things come out that are good, and the things that are bad also come out from there. Right? It is a place that we need to purify and cleanse every year. So let's look at Psalm 24. But before we go there, when we come to begin Hanukkah in our congregation, we do the baptisms or the mikvahs. Right? What we are trying to do at that point is represent what happened to the altar at that time. So I thought, this is my spin, if you like. This is how I see, how I like to represent what happened on that day, just before Hanukkah begins. This is why we do it on the day when we come to celebrate Hanukkah at night. We take the mikvahs so that we are basically doing the libation ceremony with ourselves. And we rededicate our lives to God. Okay, so just pointing that out. Alright, Psalm 24, verse 3 to 6.
Who goes up into the mountain of Yehovah, and who stands in his holy place? He who has innocent hands and a clean heart, who did not bring his life to naught, and did not swear deceivingly. He receives a blessing from Yehovah, and righteousness from the Elohim of his deliverance. This is the generation of those who seek him, Yaakov, who seeks your face, Selah.
Amen. So who comes to the mountain of Yehovah? Who is allowed into the mountain of Yehovah? So when Messiah returns and he sits upon his throne in Mount Zion, which is the mountain of God, where he has chosen to put his name on, who will go up to him? Those who have, there's two parts there.
Innocent hands, clean heart.
Yep. Alright, so we're talking about the heart, because the heart is, what did we say it was?
Evil. Okay.
Yeah, it's evil above all things, but in this case we're talking about the heart as the seat of our life, as the altar. Right? That needs to be purified. He who has clean hands, hasn't shed blood and all that sort of stuff, and a pure heart. Right? Same word. So if you look at the Septuagint, the Greek version of the Old Testament, you will find the same word there. Pure heart. Right? We translate it as pure or clean heart. Who has not spoken what is false. Right? It explains to you what a clean heart does, right? It doesn't speak what is false. It doesn't lie. I know somebody pointed out some stuff that I posted on Facebook about lying to your children. Well, that's not a sin. It's not talking about that kind of thing. Lying is not a sin, because you shall not lie has to do with, you shall not bear false witness, right? So we're not bearing false witness, so it's not really a lie, right? So you can lie because it's not bearing false witness. Speaking falsehood is a lie, right? So where do we go from there? It's telling us here that speaking falsehood is having an unclean heart, which means you will not get to see God. You will not get to see Elohim. So lying is not okay, people. The New Testament also makes it clear that lying people will not enter heaven, will not enter the house of God. Who does not swear deceitfully. Again, lying. Making a covenant that you're not going to keep, to swear deceitfully. A person who has a clean heart will receive from the Lord a blessing, and righteousness will be imputed to him, right? Just like Abraham. So very important that we clean our hearts. However that's done. Well, the Hebrew word here for pure of heart is bar. Bar, from a root word barar, which means to be cleansed, purified, made to shine, purged out, again purging, taking something out of you, tested, proven, polished, approved as in it's clean, right? And when we take our mikvahs, it's basically so that we are purified, made clean, right? So the two comparisons come together, water, right, and blood, purify, cleanse, make us clean. So it's the same understanding both in the Greek and the Hebrew. So there's nothing special or too deep that you can't understand. I think it's pretty plain and simple. To purify our hearts means to cleanse our lives, cleanse the way that we do things, the way that we think, right? Because that's on the inside. It's our heart. It's the seat of our emotions and our reasoning, how we see things. Matthew 15 to 20. If we can read that. Talking about purging.
15 to 20.
15 to 20, yeah.
And Kepha answering said to him, explain this parable to us. And Yeshua said, are you also still without understanding? Do you not understand that whatever enters into the mouth goes into the stomach and is cast out into the soul? For what comes out of the mouth comes from the heart, and this defiles the man. For out of the heart comes forth wicked reasoning, murders, adulteries, whoring, thefts, and false witnessing, slanders. These defile the man, but to eat with unwashed hands does not defile the man.
Right, so the Pharisees had come up to Yeshua and they were testing him about the washing of hands, the traditions of the elders, right? Why don't your disciples keep the traditions of the elders? Right? Tradition! Right? Because it's how dare you defile the elders, the traditions of the elders. And Yeshua doesn't even answer the question about the washing of hands. He goes straight into the Torah of it, into the understanding of what they were saying. Right? And they still didn't get it. Not even his disciples got it. Right? They just felt offended about it. But he has to explain it to them. Whatever goes into your mouth doesn't defile you. You say, well, so if I eat a piece of ham, I'm defiled, aren't I? Because it's unclean. You're unclean, but you're not defiled in that sense. You're unclean till evening. Go and wash yourself and you'll be unclean till evening. Why till evening? Because it tells you there. It goes into the stomach and then it flushes out to the toilet. That's what it says literally in the Greek. It flushes out to the toilet. goes out to the toilet. And then you're no longer defiled, right? You're no longer unclean. Right? But if something comes out of your mouth, then we're in trouble. Because what has come out of your mouth is a statement of what's in your heart. Right? And that defiles you. That puts you in danger. Right? Remember that part when we say to our brother, Raka, or good for nothing? Right? You don't exist. Then we are worthy of judgment, right? Of the fires, and so on. So, it is what comes out of the man that defiles him. And Yeshua was pointing that out because they were making such an emphasis on the clean hands. You know, and oh, you don't wash your hands, right? You're gonna get tummy bugs or whatever. You know, it's not about what goes in. It's about what comes out of your heart, because that's the seed of your life. That's who you really are. And if that's impure and if that's unclean, it doesn't matter how good you keep your religion. Right? Murders, adultery, sexual immoralities, thefts. Sexual immorality is also a form of idolatry, by the way. It's not just what we understand of it. It's idolatry in itself. Thefts, false testimonies. There we go. Lying, telling fibs. Slander, talking about others. The evil tongue, lashon hara. These are the things that defile a person. But eating without washed hands does not defile a person. There's nowhere in Torah where it tells you gotta eat with washed hands. Right? It is a good practice. I mean, you know, I like it if you wash your hands before you cook your meals, you know, especially when you come for Shabbat. Because that way we don't get sick. Right? But it's not in Torah that we have to. It's not a commandment. Right? And it doesn't defile you. It just makes you unclean if you eat pork or something like that, which we don't want to do anyway. And then it goes into the story of the Canaanite woman, right? And the lost sheep of the house of Israel and all of that beautiful stuff. Right? So, anyway, we'll leave it at that. That goes together with that passage in Matthew 12:34. It says, out of the mouth speaks the heart. It is the heart that speaks out of the mouth. And that's so true. Sometimes, you know, you sit with a person for the first time, and within 10-15 minutes of sitting with that person, you already know where they are. Because what comes out of their mouth is either foul and you can't stand it, or it's all about themselves and you can see all the pride just pouring out. I did this and I did that, and you know, the I language, right? Or it's all about Messiah, right? And then they're beautiful people because you just see them glow, kind of thing. You can see when a person starts talking to you what is in their heart, right? Because all that comes out of their mouth is this one thing, right? In different forms, but it's this one thing, right? I'm not talking about you. I'm not pointing anybody out. And if anything, I'm pointing myself out. So, don't feel condemned. I'm not doing that. Therefore, how do we read this stuff then? Because pure, if we're going to look at it from the point of view of what Abba is doing in the heart of man, he's trying to do something different. He's trying to restore. Right? Restore. Blessed are those who are restored in their hearts. They shall see Elohim. Blessed are they that are cleansed. Made pure in their hearts. So it's not just about pure, as in, I took a shower, I'm now clean. I put some bleach on my clothes, so my clothes are now clean. Not that kind of cleaning. Right? Not the kind of cleaning that happens once on a Shabbat. When you come in and you're all holy and then you go back home and you're the devil. Right? I'm always here, so I'm always clean. No, just kidding. It doesn't happen in this congregation, but I've heard it somewhere else. It happens somewhere else. Blessed are they who are made as a pure virgin. Who's the only one that gets to see the bridegroom on the wedding night? Everybody gets to see him from far, but who's the one that gets to be with him in the intimacy?
Bride.
The bride. The virgin bride. And he judges her. Talked about clean being tahor. Clean as in ritually clean. Psalm 51. If you want to read it, it's 1 to 13.
Show me favor, O Elohim, according to your loving commitment, according to the greatness of your compassion. Blot out my transgression. Wash me completely from my guilt and cleanse me from my sin. For I know my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me. Against you alone have I sinned, and done evil in your eyes, that you might be proven right in your words. Be clear when you judge. See, I was brought forth in crookedness, and in sin my mother conceived me. See, you have desired truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part you make me know wisdom. Cleanse me with hyssop, and I am clean. Wash me, and I am whiter than snow. Let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones you have crushed rejoice. Hide your face from my sins and blot out all my crookedness. Create in me a clean heart, O Lord, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Do not cast me away from your presence. Do not take your set-apart spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your deliverance, and uphold me with your spirit. Let me teach transgressors your ways, so that sinners turn back to you.
It says, wash me. Found it? Wash away my guilt and cleanse me from my sin. How do you wash away someone's guilt? Water. How do you cleanse from sin? No, how do you cleanse from sin? Torah, how do you cleanse from sin?
Repent.
What is required for...
Sacrifice.
Come on, guys. What's required for sin?
Death.
Death.
I really knew that we were just testing it.
Out of the mouth, the heart will speak.
what did Yeshua give on the cross?
Both.
What came out of his side
Water and
Water
blood.
and blood.
when he was pierced? Water and blood. Just saying. Where are we? Oh, let's change it. This happened when David had committed sin, right? With Bathsheba. Yeah, after this,
Not a
he's,
funny story.
If your name is close, it's just a matter of being.
verse 10, create a clean heart in me. Yehovah, create a tahor heart, tahor, spiritually clean, tahor, left tahor.
It's a name of a terrorist.
Clean heart. And renew a righteous spirit, chadash. Right? Chadash is a Hebrew word. It means to repair, to restore, or to renew. Right? To make back, to become righteous again, to become as it was supposed to be restored, to be made as virgin as it was, as the original was supposed to be. Hadash. The word steadfast there, actually is in the Hebrew kun, kuf, vav, nun. And it means to be established, fixed, righteous, correct, stable. Huh? We're not going there. Stable. See, what's in his heart comes out. Perfect example. Right? Steadfast. To be like, you know, the mooring docks. You know, we're talking about the beach with everyone. Where's that? There. We're talking about the beach, right? And you've got these poles stuck, you know, deep in the ground, and you get these massive ships, and they come near the docks, and they put this little rope on one end and on the other end, and that's all you need to hold the ship in place, right? And I just think it's amazing because the sheer size of those things, it's only a little pole that you got there on the side, and you can hold it. Right? And massive waves can come, and the things don't move from there. You know, this is how we need to be. Right? This is how a restored heart is. Unmovable. Right? We're stable, no matter what the circumstances are. We are stable. A steadfast, a stable heart, a stable spirit within me. Create a stable spirit within me. Well, there's a lot to be said about spirit. Right? The whole world is going about the spirit of the Christ Mass thing. And that's a demonic spirit, we know that. It's a spirit of the Antichrist, right? Replacement for Yeshua. We don't want that spirit. Right? In the midst of what's going on around us, especially during these times of year, where's your spirit? Are we steadfast in our faith, or are we just meandering, touching a little bit on the shore of the Christians, and jumping a little bit on the shore of the Jews, jumping a little bit in the shores of the world, and then coming back and pretending that we're really holy and reading our Torah. Right? Or are we really set apart? Right? People that are set apart, we have nothing to do with that. What part does the temple of God have to do with the temple of Baal?
Amen.
Right? And you can spin it however way you want. I mean, we've got tons of people on the internet, Messianics, Jews, right? Everybody wishing each other Merry, the rest of it. I won't even say it. Why? Because they are compromising. They've gone back to the world. Even though they're doing this, this is just a religion. There's no real depth of love for who God is, and the separation that we need to have as a people from the things of the world. Do not be friends of the world. Whoever makes a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. It's in our scriptures. I mean, you can spin it, you can, put it however you want, but in the end, we are not to be partakers in those things. Even if the Jews are saying that it began with Hanukkah. Anyway, we're not going to go there either. Yeah. They shall see God. They shall see Elohim. What a great promise. I want to see Him. Stand face to face with Him. Man, why would you not want to be there? Why would you want to be outside with this, the gnashing of teeth? Because you're going to see it from afar. You could have been there, but you're not, because you weren't willing enough to live behind the world and be part of this set apart, restored, pure. Not tainted. Pure means not tainted. Not full of garbage from the world, or the rabbis, or the Christians. Pure means pure. Pure of heart, cleansed, restored, set apart. Ezekiel 44, 9 to 16. I won't finish.
I just got here. Ezekiel what?
44, 9. That's the price man pays for taking care of the little ones. I'm very grateful.
11.
Ezekiel 44, 9 to 16.
9 to 16.
Yep.
Thus said the Master Jehovah, no son of a foreigner, uncircumcised in heart or uncircumcised in flesh, comes into my set-apart place, even any son of a foreigner who is among the children of Israel. And the Levites who went far from me when Israel went astray, who strayed away from me after their idols, they shall bear their crookedness. And they were attendants in my set-apart place, as gatekeepers of the house and attendants of the house, slaying the ascending offering and the slaughtering for the people, and standing before them to attend to them, because they attended to them before their idols, and became a stumbling block of crookedness to the house of Israel. Therefore I have lifted my hand in an oath against them, declares the Master Jehovah, that they shall bear their crookedness, and not come near me to serve as my priest, nor come near any of that which is set apart to me, nor into the most set apart place. And they shall bear their shame and their abominations which they have done. Yet I shall make them those who guard the duty of the house, for all its work and for all that has to be done in it. But the priests, the Levites, the sons of Zadok, who guarded the duty of my set-apart place, when the children of Israel went astray from me, they shall draw near to me to serve me, and shall stand before me to bring to me the fat and the blood, declares the Master Yehovah. They shall enter my set-apart place, and they shall draw near to my table to serve me, and they shall guard my charge.
Wow. I don't know about you, but this sends chill down my spine, because when we're talking about who will come before the presence of God, this is not foreigner. Uncircumcised of heart, that was there in the Old Testament people. It was not a New Testament invention. They were circumcised in their hearts and their flesh. That's still today. Nothing changed. Right, circumcision is still available. If you need one, let me know. We've got contacts. Knives too. No, we've got contacts that can perform it properly, medically. Circumcision of heart and flesh. There it is, both of them together. So those who don't agree with your Bible. And how great is the responsibility, right, of the priesthood, of those who teach the Torah, to lead the people in the right way, to lead them not to idolatry. Right? And I see leaders all over the world wishing people this foul thing, teaching them basically to go and idolize. Partake. Be partakers in idolatry. However way you want to look at it. They are leading the people into idolatry, one form or another. And here the Levites who led the people of Israel into idolatry will bear their sin, will bear what they did, the consequence of what they did. Imagine that. You're a Levite, a priest, descend from the priesthood, literally, born to serve the king. And the king is going to come back, and they're going to stand at the gate, and they won't be allowed in. They're going to have to look in and see how foreigners who circumcise their heart and their flesh are allowed into the master's table to serve to him inside the temple. Right? But they who were the righteous ones, who were supposed to be there, but because they led the people astray, they're going to be gnashing their teeth outside, looking in. I don't know, but you know, the weight of the responsibility of leading people. These leaders today, they just don't get the burden that it is, the responsibility that they have on their heads. They think it's all just a game of some sort, you know. I'm the rock star. That's what it is. The idols, they make themselves idols for people to worship. There's only one that can be worshipped. That's not me, guys. But the descendants of Zadok, there's always righteous people. Zadok.
Who was Zadok?
The righteous high priest, who kept the charge of the sanctuary when the Israelites went astray. Him and his descendants will be inside with Messiah.
Was he part of Phineas' line?
I'm not sure. Be interesting. But he's got his own covenant, right? He's got his own promise. Amazing. They will stand before me to offer me fat and blood. This is the declaration of the Adon Yehovah. What a beautiful place to be. I just leave you with that thought. And just one other thing. They will slaughter the burnt offerings and other sacrifices for the people, and will stand before them to serve them. Guess what? When Messiah comes, we'll go sacrifices. Just pointing that out. Alright, let's pray. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, we dedicate the altars of our lives, our hearts. May you help us to circumcise our hearts and not just our flesh. May we learn from you and not from man. Don't allow man to lead us astray in the craftiness of the enemy. There's no compromise in this house. No compromise with the world, with pagan things, with idolatry. Father, we are yours. We are set apart. Lead us not into temptation to worship other gods or the idols that we sometimes make for ourselves. Help us to keep our heart clean, purified, restored, virgin, so that when you come, you will find the bride ready to go in with you into your holy mountain, into your city. Abba, grant us that we should be ready, that we should make ourselves ready according to the book of Revelations, for the bride made herself ready. Give us the gifts that we need, and teach us the way of righteousness according to your will, not the will of man. Abba, we commit ourselves into your hands on this beautiful, holy, set-apart day. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen. Okay. Shabbat Shalom.